Okay, Mike.
Well, again, I want to thank the Green family for hosting this event. It was real nice. We actually enjoyed the drive down here. My brother-in-law, my sister, Kay, joined me. Some of you know me, some of you don't. So allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mike Frey. I'm the Libertarian candidate for Indiana's 9th Congressional District. Just so you know this, I'm a native Hoosier, raised on the south side of Indianapolis, went to the Kelley School of Business, graduated from IU, and went to work for the people that make Kleenex and the PEM products. Sales and marketing executive. They moved me and my wife around the country 8 times. I retired, living in Chicago at that time, paying $14,000 a year in real estate taxes, and I said, we got to get out of here. Basically said, where are we going to go? Wasn't quite old enough to yet to go to Florida, so I said, let's go back home. Bought a house in Johnson County and had a lot of time on my hands and started doing some reading. One of the books I picked up was called The Conscience of a Conservative. That was written by my political hero, Barry Goldwater, in 1964. As I got reading the book, it dawned on me all of a sudden, we're in deep trouble. And so many things that Senator Goldwater warned us about have indeed happened. Our federal government has got way too large. And in a minute, I'm going to tell you a couple things I'd like to change, and that will kind of be my main objectives when I get elected to this office. But before that, I want to tell you about 2 things I'm not. First of all, I'm not a professional politician. I'm a citizen that's paid the taxes to support the professional politicians. I think career politicians are one of the things that's really broke with our system. And I can tell you the 2 candidates I'm running against, Bill Bailey, who's a Democratic nominee, I like to call Bill a semi-pro, because he was in the state assembly for a number of years. He was the mayor of Seymour. He was the president of the Chamber of Commerce of Seymour. So basically, Bill's been running off and on for a number of years. He's a semi-pro. The gentleman that currently holds this seat is the definition of a professional politician. The man's not yet 40 years old, and he's already running for his 3rd term in Congress. I predict that if Todd Young keeps winning elections, folks in this room and folks in this district will be voting for Todd Young for the next 30 or 40 years. This man has obviously picked this as his chosen vocation. I don't believe the Founding Fathers meant for anybody to have a vocation, to be a politician, and to spend their whole time in Washington, D.C. Plus, I think you get tainted when you go to Washington for that period of time. And the other thing, I'm not a big government guy. I'm a limited small government guy. I think that the fact that Bill Bailey's a Democrat alone tells you he's a big government guy. Because that's what that's what Democrats believe in, big government. Now, Todd Young, God bless his soul, is going to run this campaign as a small government guy. But the man voted for the $45 billion extension on the budget to pass that. He just voted to fund Obamacare for next year. There was a Republican initiative in certain departments of the federal government to go back to 2008 spending. Over 100 Republicans voted for that. My congressman didn't vote for that. Todd Young is a big government candidate. In fact, I'll tell you something humorous that happened the other day. My wife came in and woke me up at 6:15 in the morning and said, I just heard one of your TV ads. I just heard one of your TV ads. I said, Lou, I said, I don't have money. I'm not running TV ads. She said, oh, that was Todd Young, but he sounds like you. On the campaign trail, he sounds like me. I can rest you assured, he doesn't vote like I'll vote. So why am I doing this? Well, there's a lot of things I'd like to accomplish, but the 3 big ones. First of all, we've got to do something about this federal budget. Folks, we're $18 trillion in debt. We are currently spending 20% of our gross national product. Now, the last time we had a balanced budget, we were at 16%. Now, the deficit's actually going to go down next year, according to Congress. But then after next year, it starts going up again. And it's estimated by the year 2024 that if we don't address this, it'll be 24% of our gross national product. That's unsustainable. Not going to affect me because, heck, I'm old. It's going to affect my daughter. It's going to affect my grandchildren. It's going to affect some of you, and if not, it's going to affect future generations. We've got to get it balanced. So I believe in a balanced budget. And the way we're going to balance the budget is, folks, we're going to have to cut spending. And we're going to have to do it department by department. We have a $5.5 trillion budget. I work for a company that, on occasion, and I managed 168 people, I got a note from my boss, or an objective from my boss, that you have to cut costs, but deliver the same amount of business. You know what? Private industry finds a way to do that. I love it. Government says, oh, you can't cut costs. You'll kill the economy. We're in the midst of a recovery. You can't cut. During the sequester, you can't cut. All these jobs are essential. Come on, guys. With the number of employees the federal government has of 5.5 trillion, I guarantee you all those jobs aren't essential. And as far as killing the growth or the expansion that we were beginning to see, our quote-unquote, the recovery, or as my brother-in-law reminded me, the stimulus that we got, this is the slowest recovery in United States history. And another thing I found very interesting when I started doing research on this quote-unquote recovery, for the average American family, median income has dropped 5.5%. So in other words, for most of us in this room, we really haven't had much of a recovery. You know one area that has seen median income rise during this recovery period? Washington, D.C. Kind of interesting, isn't it? It's pretty good for the folks in power. In fact, 3 out of the 4 richest counties in this country are in the Washington, D.C. metro area. I guess if I was in D.C., I wouldn't want to end this program either, because I'm sure getting rich on it. But it's not good for the citizens of this country. And it is possible to balance a budget, and it is possible to do it on spending. I won't get into various departments, but there's a number of departments. Department of Education, the EPA, energy. There's just a number of departments where you can cut costs, guys, that they haven't proved their worth. They've been costly and haven't delivered the results. Second thing I want to run on is reform the tax code. 80,000 pages now to the United States tax code. Now 55,000 of that is basically business taxes, but that still means for individual taxes 25,000 pages for you and I to figure out. And I can tell you one thing that's very interesting. Your congressman, my congressman, had trouble doing his taxes a couple years ago. Now, of course, I will give him the benefit of the doubt. It wasn't federal taxes, it was state tax, but basically he took a deduction that it was unauthorized to do, and he owed the state $5,000. And when he wrote his first check, he bounced it. Now, that cost the state some money to have him issue another check. But all I'm saying, if he's on the Ways and Means Committee, which basically controls tax policy, if he can't do it right, how in the hell is Mike Frey supposed to do it right? He's in the position. I favor a flat tax. There's a lot of people favor a fair tax. You can check out my tax program on my webpage. I don't want to get into the details of that, but I believe in a flat tax. The other thing that is real important to me, the third thing, is what I call fair and equal legislation. I find it very interesting. When I graduated from Indiana in 1972, basically you wanted to go to work in the private sector. Paid a little more. Benefits at that time were a little bit better. Now, the one disadvantage to going to work for a private sector, you actually could lose your job. And they actually on occasion did cut headcount. If you want a nice, secure job, maybe not paid as well, you went to work for the government. Folks, since I've graduated from IU, that's reversed. The average government worker paid more than a private worker, has better benefits than a private worker, has a heck of a lot better pension than the private worker, and believe me, has job security. I'm not going to give his name out because he'd probably sue me, but I may actually get him at one of these meetings to come, one of these speeches to come testify if push comes to shove. I had a good friend that worked for the federal government that basically would go in, he did work on a computer, would go in and alternate with a guy. He did it for 6 months. He didn't do it for his whole career. But he would go on and turn his computer on and turn the guy in the cubicles next to him, turn their computer on, and he would stay. The other guy would never even show up, but it showed his computer was on, and quote-unquote, he was engaged. And the very next guy, the guy would do the same for him. And he did it. But those jobs are worth more than the private sector, and those jobs, you can't get rid of any of those? Come on, guys. Fair and equal legislation, too. I find it very interesting. The Democrats pushed through Obamacare. It's good enough for you. It's good enough for you, Kelley. It's good enough for you, Kay. It's good enough for you, David. It's not good enough for them. Federal workers in Congress, they've got their own health care program. They don't have Obamacare. Found that very interesting. Now, Social Security is a godsend, no doubt about it. You know, I hate to admit it, but I've started collecting Social Security. But do you know that Social Security only returns 2% of the money you invest? So every money, the 6 or 7% that you put in your company match. So in reality, you were putting 12 to 14% every paycheck. You were only getting 2% return on that money. Now, we can't do away, obviously, because Social Security, so many people need it, and it is a cornerstone of their retirement. But I find it interesting that federal government employees have their own pension plan. They're not part of the Social Security program. Congress isn't part of their Social Security program. Why is that? Why are they special? Pass legislation, good for me, not good for you. That bothers me a great deal. And as part of my fair and equal, it kind of what I talk about, I do believe there are term limits. Political office is not supposed to be a career. Todd Young's going to make a career out of it. And he's going to retire. Well, he won't retire. He'll retire at 80 with a very healthy pension because these guys, job must be okay because they seem to stay around forever. So those are the three big things I'm running in. And I'm here today to ask for your vote. And the way I just want to, and I hope I'm not taking too much time.
You're fine. You take as much as you need.
There's three things I want to tell you about the outcome because I've gone around and I've talked to a lot of people in this district. I've visited every county but one, and I'm going to make that before this thing is over. And I do want to let everyone know on the 13th, unless he chickens out the last minute, there's a good chance on 13th October I'm finally going to be able to at least spend 45 minutes on the same stage with our current congressman, as well as my Democratic opponents. He and I will be in Bloomington tomorrow, but we get done voting, there's going to be three things that are going to happen here. People are going to go in and say, you know what? I heard that libertarian guy, and he's okay. But, I just can't elect a Democrat. I just can't do it. And they're going to push that button for Todd Young. And his $2 million is going to work. And that's what he's going to spend on this campaign, I estimate. And 2 years from now, those same people that did that will be sitting in a room and going, oh my God, how did the deficit get to $21 trillion? And why hasn't anything changed? And but I'm going to trust him this time because I've seen those TV ads, and he's a small government guy, even though there's a lot of votes that show he's not. And you'll go on with life. And John Boehner will still be the Speaker of the House because the Republicans aren't going to lose the House, folks, even if they lose this seat. Or I convinced quite enough people. Although I'm going to get some Democrats, too, because I've met a lot of Democrats that are tired of things. But I convinced more Republicans than Democrats. One of the reasons why is there's more Republicans in this district. But I don't quite convince enough. And Bill Bailey wins. And what happens? Bill Bailey goes to Washington. John Boehner still remains Speaker of the House. The deficit still hits $21 trillion. And there's not going to be a whole hell of a lot of difference other than on a few issues, Todd will probably vote a little more conservative and a little bit more along the Constitution than Bill Bailey. But there's going to be a lot of things where they vote the same. And that's not going to be any different. It's not going to be any different for any of us. Or the third thing that happens. We really do hit a movement. We really do hit a movement. The folks in this room really do go out and talk to 10 people between now and election time. And maybe Todd Young stumbles on the 13th, or maybe something happens. But this wave, and I do feel there's a wave of tired of government, hits. And people vote for me. And I pull off, and not I, we pull off one of the biggest upsets in the country. And you know what would happen? The folks in the 9th District of Indiana would have a voice. Because I guarantee you, we win this race. And it's big news. Todd Young wins, it's not going to be big news. An incumbent Republican won in a gerrymandered district against a Democrat and an amateur libertarian who's never run for office in his life. Big deal. That's not news. Bill Bailey wins, it'll be news for a brief minute. Democrats took a Republican seat away in a gerrymandered district, and Yeah, the Libertarian had something to do with it, and the Republican Party's pretty mad at him. But again, I went in its headlines. I mean, I hate to say the people in the 9th District of Indiana elected a Libertarian. We would be on Fox News. I promise you we would be. It would be the biggest political story of the entire election. And we would have a voice. And they would say the people in the 9th District of Indiana want small government. They say they've had enough of the $1 trillion deficit. It's very interesting, and I'll close with this. On the way up here, my poor sister and my poor brother-in-law had to listen to me rehearse what I'm going to say on Monday night. And one of the things that's interesting, I was trying to anticipate what Bill Bailey will run on, and I also, if Todd was there, what he would run on. And I got the thing, and we listed all the various issues we could talk about, and I kind of concluded that Bill Bailey's going to have an advantage because he's not going to do anything to necessarily address the deficit, and he wants to keep supporting the EPA, and he wants to do this on education funding, and he wants to pay for everything. Immigration, the people that just broke he wants to do everything. And it's great that people say, yeah, he really cares about us. You know, the one voting group that when I got to thinking about it, about 5 miles outside of town here, the one voting group I never hear anyone talk about, the people who are paying for it all. Who represents us? Oh, you got to take care of this group, you got to take care of this. We're paying for all this. I frankly am tired of paying for it. Do something a little different. Some of you have already had, but those that haven't, do something different. Push that button for the Libertarian, and let's send Washington, D.C. a message. Now, if there's any questions, I'll take them. If not, I'll leave that up to you. I'm asking for your vote, though.
Any questions? David?
Well, I'll ask, what about ISIS? What about Syria, Iraq?
Oh boy, this is probably, we may have some disagreements on this because my sister and I, fortunately, I think my brother-in-law's kind of on my side. We got in a disagreement on it. I think we made a mistake the first time. I think the primary objective of the federal government is to protect us. And I do believe in a strong military. However, in my lifetime, I think the United States has made a mistake and stuck their nose in places they shouldn't get, and it's cost us nothing but problems. It's cost us an awful lot of good young men and women, and it's cost us a ton of money. The fact of the matter is the Middle East, those folks have been fighting for 3,000 years. We go over there right now, and eventually, I'm very scared we're going to end up with foot soldiers there, and we eliminate them, something else is going to pop up. We should have never gone into first place. We've got allies there, supposedly a little more moderate Muslims, like Saudi Arabia and them. Why can't they take care of it for us? I mean, it's in their part of the world. Everyone says, what about obviously the oil resources and everything, which is one of the reasons why we're over there. You and I both thought, well, let's build a dang pipeline and let's start fracking and become energy independent so we're not as dependent on those folks. But I'm very scared about how this thing is going to end up. Yeah. I also think before you commit American bullies, you better make sure that you have all the right information and you better be right. And then if you go over there, you do it to win. You don't try and nation build. Now, that may sound a little radical and a little mean, but I think too many times we've gone the other way, David. So that's my position. My biggest worry is the economy is going to destroy us before anything else if we don't get this federal deficit under control. They'll destroy us before something in the Middle East. Anything else? Thanks again.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.